भगवान श्री राम है अपनी सीता।
Okay. So we'll say AMX administration. So as part of AMX administration, so these are the main components. Or when you say runtime, okay, when you say AMX runtime, so these are the main components. So you have AMX administrator. So you will be having AMX host, or that's what you call as TIBCO host. And we will be having okay, so TIBCO host is there, and we have node. So node will be there, and you have notification server, and you will be having AMX database, okay, you'll be having AMX database. So these are the components that will be part of your AMX runtime. So AMX administrator, TIBCO host, node, notification server, and AMX database. Okay, now so every AMX runtime, okay, every AMX runtime, so we'll be having at least one system node. Okay, at least one system node, and one more will be there, enterprise. Okay, enterprise. And so you will also have environment. Okay, you'll be having environment. So these are the main components of your AMX runtime. Okay, the root of AMX administration. Okay, the root of AMX administration is enterprise. Okay, the root of AMX administration is, or AMX runtime is enterprise. The enterprise, okay, enterprise will be having one or more environments. Okay, you'll be having one or more environments. So generally they will configure multiple environments, like for testing, so unit testing they will have, okay, for system integration test they will maintain separate environment like that. So multiple environments you will be having. So every enterprise will be having one or more environments. Okay, and each environment, okay, so each environment, so we'll be having, okay, so each environment will be having so two other types of environment. So you will be having system environment. Okay, you'll be having system environment, and then you will be having development environment. Okay, so two types of environments you have. So one system environment, and you will be having development environment. So you can configure a number of development environments. So it's not mandatory that you can have only one development environment. Okay, it's not mandatory that you can have only one development environment. You can have one or more development environments. but you will be having only one system environment. Okay, you'll be having only one system environment and one or more development environments you will be having. So within system environment, okay, within system environment, so you will be having system node. Okay, within system environment, you will be having a node called system. Okay, so within system environment, you will be having one node called system. Now, except node, okay, except node, the environment, enterprise, these are all logical structures. Okay, so enterprise environment, these are all logical structure. The actually node is the executable runtime. Okay, node is the executable runtime. So what exactly the system node will be having? Okay, so what exactly your system node will be having? The system node will be having AMX platform services. Okay, your system node will be having AMX platform services. Okay, will be having AMX platform services. So what all are part of your AMX platform services? So you will be having dashboard agent. Okay, you will be having dashboard agent or dashboard service. You will be having payload service. So you'll have logging service. You will be having event collector service. Okay, event collector service you will be having. And you will also be having administrator service. Okay, you will be having administrator service. Okay, so these are called platform services. You know, the payload service, the logging service, event collector service, dashboard service, admin service. So these are all called as platform services. And these platform services will be running within system node. Okay, they all will be running within system node. So they will not be part of your business logic execution. Okay, they will not be part of your business logic execution. So they will only provide the supporting services. Okay, they will only provide the actual supporting services. So like how to perform the logging, you know, how to perform the logging and how to, you know, manage the payload and how to provide, you know, the view of your components. So these all things will be taken care by these platform services. And the administrator service also will be running so within system node. So the system node will be available in the system environment. Okay, will be available in the system environment. So that's why, so per installation, okay, per installation, you can only have one system environment and you can only have one system node. Okay, by default you will get one system node and one system environment. You cannot extend that. Okay, you cannot make multiple system nodes and all. But if you want to have multiple system nodes, so you have to install your AMX environment in, you know, in master secondary. In high availability mode, you have to install your AMX runtime. Okay, then only you will get the multiple so platform services. Okay, so as long as you have one installation, you can only have one. You can only have one system node or one system environment. Okay. Now the next one you have, so which is development environment. Okay, the next environment you have, so which is development environment. So the development environment, okay, the development environment, So we can have one or more development nodes. Okay, can have one or more development node. So one development environment can have one or more development nodes. Okay. Now, so what exactly the development node? So your dev node is executable runtime. Okay, your development node is an executable runtime for your SOA services and the BPM business processes. Okay, so this is where your whatever you have developed will be executed. So in the development node. Now the development node will be having different components based on what exactly you have installed. So based on your type of installation, the development node will be having different components. Okay. Now if you install only service grid, okay, if you install only service grid, okay, if you install only service grid, you can only, your development node can only execute SOA services. Okay, your development node can execute only SOA services. But if you install BPM also, if you install BPM also, your development node can execute the SOA services as well as BPM processes. Okay, so what exactly internal architecture of your development node? This dev node at the base you will be having, basically it's a OSGI container. Okay, so at the bottom you will have OSGI container. So on the top of this OSGI container you will be having SCA runtime. Okay, you will be having SCA runtime. So on the top of this, okay, so on the top of this, so you will be having containers. Okay, you will be having service containers. So what are the service containers you have? So that we have seen. So you'll have Java, so mediation, Spring, these are all. Okay, so Java, mediation, Spring, etc. So these are all your service containers. So this is your development node if you install only grid. Okay, if you install only grid. But if you install BPM, so if you install BPM, you will be having this. Okay, so you will be having BPL runtime. Okay, you will be having BPL runtime. So BPL stands for Business Process Execution Language. Okay, BPL stands for Business Process Execution Language. And you also will be having BPL for people. Okay, so it will be having the BPL runtime it will have, and it will also have BPL for people. So this will be your BPM node. So this will when you install BPM, you will be having these components. Okay, these components will be there when you install the BPM. So when you install BPM, so more things will be installed. BPL runtime will be there, and BPL for people also will be there. So that's why, so when you install BPM, it requires lots of memory it requires. Okay, it requires lots of memory because so it has many more components. Okay, it is having the major components like BPL runtime and BPL for people. So that's why, so running BPM node, it requires lots of memory when you compare with the normal grid node. So grid can be started very easily. It doesn't require too many system resources. But in order to start this BPM node, so you need lots of resources. Okay, so essentially your development node is the executable one, so where all your applications will be executed. Okay, all your applications will be executed. Okay, now so there is one constraint. Okay, there is one constraint as of now, that is okay. Now the complete BPM project, okay, complete BPM project can be deployed onto one node only. Okay, the entire project you have to deploy onto one node only. But in the case of SCA, okay, the SCA server project so can be distributed. Okay, can be distributed onto multiple nodes. Okay, so if you create an SCA project, so you don't have to deploy the entire project onto one node only. So each component you can deploy onto multiple nodes. Okay, so each component you can deploy onto multiple nodes. Now you can do like this. So bindings you can, for example, so all the transport bindings. Okay, so on one node you will be running bindings. Okay, all the transports will be taken care by one node, and the components you can install onto another node. Okay, so for load balancing or failover. Okay, for failover concepts, you can have the component onto multiple nodes. So this is one good feature you have for this SOA applications. So instead of deploying one project onto one system, so you can deploy that onto multiple systems. Okay, you can deploy that onto multiple systems. So it is almost similar to the normal BW deployment only. So there also in BW also, you can, if you want to have high availability for your business project, you will deploy process archive onto multiple systems. And transport, like these things like adapters you will be deploying onto, you can deploy them into load balancing. Okay, you can deploy adapters into load balance mode, and whereas your business logic can be deployed into fault tolerant or load balancing. So there you do that explicitly. The load balancing deployment fault tolerant, you do that explicitly. But here, so it is using the latest feature. Okay, it is using the latest feature. That is, now the latest feature is, if two systems are running, okay, if two systems are running, you will get load balancing. Okay, if two systems are running, you will get load balancing. And if only one system is running, you will be having the fault tolerance feature. Okay, you will be having fault tolerant feature, because so what's happening is, what happens if you use fault tolerance is, at any time only one server will be running and other server will be always running in backup mode, and it doesn't do anything. So which means as long as it is in backup mode, you're not utilizing your server feature. Okay, you're not utilizing your server feature. So that's why, so this latest application, they have this feature. So that's called as failover and failback. So failover means if one system goes offline, other system will process all the requests. Failback means if both the systems are running, the load distribution will be there. Okay, load distribution will be there. So your business, if you want to load balance your business logic, usually you always wants to load balance your business logic so that it can be executed faster. So in BW, what you do, you deploy processor onto multiple systems. So here you will deploy SCA components onto multiple systems for load balancing or for failover and failback feature. So because in AMX, your business logic will be represented by SCA components only. So that's why only those things you will deploy onto multiple systems. And bindings you will be installing onto one node. So that's generally will be configured as part of distribution. So this is the advantage you have for SCA applications, where you can deploy them into multiple nodes for failover and failback feature. But unfortunately, the BPM cannot be distributed. Okay, the BPM cannot be distributed. So the entire project has to be deployed onto one node only. Okay, it has to be deployed onto one node only. Okay. So this is as far as the node features are. So within nodes, okay, so within node, your applications will be available as application templates. Okay, your applications will be available as application template. So what exactly is the application template here? Okay, so one distribution application archive is deployed as an application template. Okay, so when you deploy the DAF file, so what exactly DAF file? A DAF file is your BPM project. Okay, so DA is generally, it's a deployable archive. Okay, it's a kind of ER file for deploying your SCA composites or for deploying your BPM projects. So when you deploy your DAF file, okay, when you deploy your DAF file, so it is deployed as an application template. Okay, it is deployed as application template. And within development node, your deployed applications will be available as application template. Okay, so they will be available as application template. So when you see any node, okay, when you see any node, so it will show you the application templates. Okay, it will be showing you application templates. Okay, so your DA will be deployed as an application template, so within the development node. Okay, now how do you deploy your applications? So in order to deploy your applications, you have to create one DAF file. Okay, you have to create one DAF file. So you create a DAF file at composite level. Okay, you will create the DAF file at composite level. So for each composite, one DAF file will be created. If it is your SOA project. So, but if you are using BPM project, okay, if you are using BPM project, for the entire BPM project, one composite will be automatically created. Okay, so during deployment procedure, your BPM project will be automatically converted into one SCA composite. And for that SCA composite, one DA file will be created. And then that will be deployed. So once it is deployed, your application will be available as application template. Okay. Now, okay, so each application template will have application fragments. Okay, we'll be having one or more application fragments. So what exactly are application fragments? They are nothing but this one. Okay, so they are nothing but application fragments are nothing but your SCA components. Okay, now when these application fragments, okay, when these application fragments wants to connect to a system, okay, wants to connect to a system, or if at all they want to have some kind of governance implementation, you need to have resource instances. Okay, when application fragment requires to connect to system, Okay, so will be in the form of resource instances. Now let's say you want to connect to one web service. Okay, your application wants to connect to one web service. Now that web service is available on the port, let's say 10,000. Okay, the web service is available on the port 10,000. Okay, it's available on the port 10,000. So generally in BW, you don't need to do anything. You'll simply configure. You'll import your visual file. You will use SOAP request reply and you will just run it. Okay, the same thing happens even while deploying also. But here, when you're deploying it, okay, when you're deploying it, so you have to configure. Okay, you have to configure a resource instance. Okay, you have to configure a resource instance. So which contains the 10,000 port number. Okay, you have to configure one resource instance which contains the 10,000 port number, and that resource instance should be there in the node. Okay, that should be available in the node. Otherwise, you cannot connect to that web service. So likewise, whenever you want to connect to system, okay, whenever you want to connect to system, the connectivity information, so it should be available in the development node. Okay, the connectivity information must be available in the development node in the form of resource instances. So otherwise, you cannot connect to systems. So this is the frequent, mistakes people will be making. So without having proper resource instance, even if you try to deploy your application, it's not going to get deployed. It will throw error. Okay, always you should have connections in the form of resource instances in the node. First create the instance, then only deploy your application. Okay, so how exactly you create resource instances? Okay, a resource instance will be created based on resource template. Okay, so based on resource template, you will be creating resource instance. Okay, so based on resource template, you will be creating resource instances. Okay, so resource template it's nothing but it's a abstract definition. Okay, so resource template is abstract definition for connectivity. Okay, so based on the resource template, you will be creating resource instance. So where exactly the resource templates will be available? Okay, the resource templates will be available on the TIBCO host component. Okay, so it will be available on TIBCO host component. Okay, so all the resource templates will be available on the TIBCO host component. So whatever resource templates we have, okay, whatever resource templates we have, so all the resource templates will be available on this TIBCO host. So what exactly TIBCO host does? Okay, so it is a point of contact between your AMX administration and the nodes, AMX administrator service and the nodes. Okay, so it's a point of contact between the AMX administrator and the nodes. Okay, so that is what exactly TIBCO host is. So it's a point of contact between the AMX administrator and the nodes. Okay, and okay, your application distribution and deployment is done by TIBCO host. So generally, the deployment in normal BW, you do the deployment using TIBCO administrator only. But here, the actual internally, the deployment is done by TIBCO host. And this is the one which will actually distribute the applications onto multiple nodes. Okay, so this is the point of contact between the AMX administrator and nodes, and the application distribution and deployment is done by TIBCO host. But how do you communicate with TIBCO host? Okay, so you can communicate with the TIBCO host only through AMX administrator. So you will not communicate with the host directly. Okay, you won't be communicating with the host directly. So you communicate with the host using the AMX administrator. Okay, using AMX administrator. So what you do in AMX administrator? Okay, you will configure the DAA file. Okay, you will monitor and manage deployed applications. So this is the main task of this administration. Okay, so you'll upload your DAA file to the administrator and you can do the configuration there, and once it is deployed, so you can monitor and manage your deployed applications. So that's the main task of this AMX administrator. Okay, your nodes, host and AMX administration, all these components will be communicating through JMX. Okay, they'll be connected through JMX. Okay, so internally the nodes, host and AMX administration will be communicating using JMX. So JMX stands for Java Management Extension. Okay, so all these components will be communicating through this JMX. Okay, so this is the connectivity between them. So this is, like, so let's say, you want to start a service, or you want to start one of the node. So the, how to start that node is done through JMX. Okay, it is done through JMX. So in BW, so your runtime components will be communicating through, okay, your runtime components will be communicating through Hawk. So here you don't require to use Hawk here. So you will be using JMX. Okay, you will be using JMX. So this is for internal communication. Okay. Okay, now all the platform services will be connected through notification server. Okay, will be connected through notification server. So this notification server is nothing but EMS. Okay, the notification server is nothing but EMS. Okay, so internally, so all these applications will be connected through EMS. So okay, so you can, in the production environment, you can install host onto one system. Okay, you can install host onto one system. You can have nodes onto another system. Okay, you can install nodes onto another system, and you can install the AMX administration onto different system. So in each component can be installed onto different systems, but all must point to one EMS server only. Okay, all of them must point to one EMS server only. So because, so all these components will be connected through this EMS server. Okay. So if you want to deploy DA file, we have three ways. Okay, there are three ways to deploy your DA file. So one is using deployment servers. Okay, so you have an option in Business Studio. That option is called deployment server. And other one is using AMX administrator. Okay, other one is using AMX administrator. So, and the third one is and scripting. Okay, so one you have deployment server. Okay, deployment server option in Business Studio. And second thing is Okay, you upload your DA file to administrator, and then from there you deploy it. And the third one, scripting deployment. Okay, using Ant. So these are the three options you have in order to deploy your DA file. So this DA file, it can be anything. So it can be your BPM project, okay, or it can be your SCA composite. It can be anything. So whether you have SCA composite or whether you have BPM project, so all these things can be deployed in these three ways. Okay, so using deployment server option in the Business Studio, and you can upload DA file to the administration. From there you can deploy it. And the third one is so scripting deployment using Ant. Okay, scripting deployment using Ant. Now when you are using scripting deployment, you require three files. Okay, require three files. One is build file. Okay, one is build file. And the second one is data file. And the third one is properties file. Okay, so these three files are required in order to deploy. So using Ant. Okay, so your build file, okay, the build file contains admin actions. Okay, like you'll specify deploying, undeploying, stopping, starting, and all those stuff. So that those things you'll specify in the build file. The data file, okay, the data.xml file. So this contains, okay, this contains project information. Okay, so this information it will be having. And the properties file. Okay, so this file contains login credentials for the AMX admin. Okay, it will be having login credentials for AMX admin. And all this file should be there in one directory only. Okay, it must be in the same directory. Okay, all these three files must be in the same directory. Okay, and then you will be executing this command. Okay, so these are the steps you will do when you want to deploy it from scripting. So you have to create a build file, you have to create a data file, and you have to create properties file. So then you can use this is the scripting deployment, and not only scripting deployment, even if you are doing automated deployment, so there also it will be using Ant only. Okay, so Ant only will be used for deployment. But if you are doing scripting deployment, everything you have to create manually. Okay, all these things you have to create manually. So then you can do the deployment. So these are the three options of deploying your DAA file. So what exactly DAA file contains? Okay, so what exactly your DAA file contains? Okay, what exactly your DAA file contains? So the DAA file contains your SCA components. Okay, it will contain the SCA components. It will be having custom features. Okay, the DAA file will be having the SCA components. It will be having custom features, and it will be having substitution variables. So the substitution variables are similar to global variables in BW. Okay, in BW we have global variables, so they are called substitution variables. So these are part of your DAA file. Okay, you can also configure the resource templates within your project itself. And for governance, you will be using policy sets. Okay, you will be using policy sets for governance. So these all things will be the part of your DAA file. Okay, so using policy sets, what exactly will do? You will implement quality of services. So okay, so if at all you want to have additional quality of services like load balancing, or if you want to have authentication, authorization. Okay, authentication and authorization. So these kinds of things. So credential mapping. So transactions, etc. So these things you will configure using these policy sets. So these all will be part of your DAA file. Okay, these all will be part of your DAA file. Okay. So the AMXDB Okay, it will be having the deployed applications versions information. Okay, we'll be having the deployed applications versions information, and it also will be having the admin users information. So all this information will be part of your AMX administration. Okay, AMX database. Okay, AMX admin database. So generally, so for production environment, okay, for production environment, so you are supposed to use different databases. Okay, so the logging service, the payload service, admin service should have their own database. But you can use, for if you're working on, if you're learning, you can use one database for all these services. But generally, the recommended approach is you configure different databases for the logging service, so payload services, and your administration service. Okay, so these are the main components of your AMX runtime. Okay. Okay, so enterprise is a logical representation of your administrator host nodes, notification server DB, and environment. So enterprise is a root element, the root for your AMX administration. Okay, so it's a logical component only. You don't configure enterprise separately. So when you install product, okay, when you install your AMX BPM or AMX, okay, AMX BPM, or if you install AMX service grid, one enterprise will be automatically created for us. So you can, if you see the shortcut, so this is my enterprise. Okay, that's my enterprise. So an enterprise will be automatically created for us. So that is the one, so which will be holding all other components. Okay. So tomorrow we'll see practically how to create the domain, or how to create the AMX administration, and how to deploy it. Okay. So rest we'll see tomorrow. So you have the concept in active fulfillment. So is that easy looking for? Okay. It is actually, it's a e-business suite, is right? But e-business, if it all is looking for a tool-based thing, I'm aware of Hybris. Okay. So just check with him whether he wants to learn only concept or based on tool you want to learn. Okay, sure. Okay. Okay, guys. So we'll meet tomorrow. Okay. Sure, sure, definitely.